In this lecture, we are going to see about respiration rate measurement. Actually, what is meant by respiration? Respiration is nothing but a exchange of gas in any biological process. Actually, the ability of respiration is affected by some parameters like various components of air passages, the diaphragm and the muscles associated with the diaphragm, the rib cage, and moreover, the characteristics of lung itself. Before entering into the topic, we must need to know about some parameters, so which are called lung volume and capacities. Since we need to measure these lung volumes and capacity, we need to know what does this term means. So we'll see one by one here. The first one is tidal volume. It is nothing but a volume of gas inspired or expired during each normal respiration cycle. So it is actually nothing but we are inspiring and expiring some gas, right? So that is called what? Tidal volume. And the very important thing is we are doing it very normally, right? So we are not making any extra pressure to inspire the gas and exhale the gas, right? So we are normally inhaling and normally exhaling. So that is what called as what? This tidal volume. And when we are inspiring, it is specifically called as tidal volume inspiration, and we are exhaling the gas, it is called as tidal volume expiration. The next one is inspiratory reserve volume. So it is shortly called as IRV. So it is nothing but an extra volume of gas that a person can inspire, right? So we are not normally inspiring here. We are putting some extra effort or we are making some extra pressure to inspire the air. So this is called what? Inspiratory reserve volume. So what we are doing here, we are putting some effort to inspire the air, right? And the next one is expiratory reserve volume. So here what it states is it is nothing but extra volume of gas that can be expired with a maximum effort. So we are not exhaling normally. So here also we are putting some pressure or we are forcefully expiring the gas, right? So this is called as what? Expiratory reserve volume. In short, it is called as ERV. And the next one is residual volume, and it is the volume of gas remaining in the lungs at the end of maximal expiration. So when we are inhaling the gas, so the gas goes inside the lungs, and when we are exhaling, it goes outside, right? So consider we are making some maximum effort to push out all the gas from the lungs. So even though we make maximum effort to push out all the gas from the lungs, there will be some volume of gas will be in the lungs. So that remaining volume of gas is called as what? Residual volume. The next one is vital capacity. So here consider you are taking some maximum effort to inhale the gas, and after inhaling the gas, what you are doing is you are exhaling some volume of gas by forceful expiration, right? So how much of the volume of gas that has been expelled from the lungs after forceful expiration, so that is called as what? Vital capacity. But here the condition is, here the inspiration is also what? A forceful inspiration, that is a maximum inspiration, and the expiration is also what? It's a forceful one. The next one is inspiratory capacity, which is shortly called as IC. So it is nothing but a maximum amount of a gas that can be inspired by a patient, right? So how much maximum amount of a gas that you can inspire, so that is what called inspiratory capacity. And the next one is total lung capacity. In short, it is called as a TLC. So it is nothing but amount of gas that is being contained in the lungs after making what? Forceful inspiration or a maximum inspiration. That is, you are making some maximum effort to inspire the gas, and how much of gas is being present in the lungs, right? So that is what called total lung capacity. The last one is functional residual capacity, which is in short called as FRC. It is nothing but a volume of gas that is present in the lungs even after the expiratory level, that is even after the expiration. So usually this FRC is nothing but a sum of this expiratory reserve volume and the residual volume. Next we will see about the instrumentations which are used for measuring the respiration rate. Recording spirometer. So this spirometer is the most commonly used instrument which is used for measuring the respiratory volume. Usually, the lung volumes and capacities are determined by measuring the amount of gas that is being inspired or expired. And here, the residual volume, the functional residual capacity, and the total lung capacity cannot be measured with the help of this spirometer, whereas other parameters can be measured. So, for measuring these three parameters, we need some other type of instruments. Apart from this regular recording spirometer, we have some other instruments which are used for measuring respiration rate, and they are wedge spirometer, electronic spirometer, and bronchospirometer. First, we'll see about the standard spirometer. So this is how the equipment looks like. So let's see what does it consist of. Usually, this spirometer consists of a movable bell. So you can see, so this is movable bell, and this movable bell will be inverted over a chamber of water. So you'll be having a chamber of water. So this portion will, it's nothing but your chamber of water, and the movable bell will be inverted over this chamber of water, and inside the bell you will be having some gas, right? So that gas has to be breathed by the patient. Okay, so you will be having a what? You will be having a moving bell and a chamber of water, and inside the bell you will be having a gas, and that gas will be breathed by the patient. So when the patient inhales and exhales, the bell will be moving. So in order to overcome that movement, you will be having some weight, right? So the bell is usually counterbalanced by some weight mechanism, and for that you will be having some pulley-like arrangement. So you can see a pulley-like arrangement here. And then you will be having a breathing tube. So this is the breathing tube. So with the help of this tube, the patient will be inhaling the gas. You can see this is the diagrammatic representation of a spirometer. So here what happens is, so you can see the patient is breathing with the help of the breathing tube here. So when he inhales and exhales the gas, what will happen is, you can see the bell. So this is the bell, and this bell will move up and down. So as he inhales and exhales the gas, the bell will move up and down, because the bell only contains the gas which has to be inhaled, right? And when the bell moves up and down, what will happen is, there will be a pen, and that will write on an adjacent recorder, and this graph is called as a kymograph. Okay, and this pen actually what it does is, it actually traces the breathing pattern of the patient. Okay, so according to the breathing pattern of the patient, you will be getting a what? Kymograph here, and based upon the movement of this bell, you will be getting this kymograph. And there are various bell volumes available, but usually 9 and 13.5 liters are most commonly used in medical areas. And this kind of a spirometer is well suitable for clinical spirography and for determination of the metabolism rates. And the next type is wedge spirometer. In this wedge spirometer, you will be having two metal pans. So you can see in the diagram here. So this is the first metal pan, and in the opposite side you will be having what? Another metal pans. Okay, and the space between these two metal pans is usually enclosed by a flexible bellows. Okay, so this bellows is nothing but like a airbag. Okay, so these two metal pans, that is the space between these two metal pans, is usually enclosed by some bellows, and that bellow will form a something like a chamber, and this chamber will have air that is to be breathed by the patient. Usually you will be having what? These two pans. Out of these two pans, one pan will be fixed to a stand, so it will not move. It will be completely fixed to a stand, and also it will have some inlet tube, whereas other pan will swing freely. Okay, so consider, if the patient inhales or exhales, what will happen? The air may be introduced into the chamber, or it may be withdrawn from it. So what will happen then? The chamber will get expand and compress, which will lead to change in the position of the moving pan. Okay, so whenever the chamber expands or compresses, what will happen? The moving pan will change its position. Hence, this instrument will provide electrical output which is proportional to volume of the lungs and the airflow. So apart from this wedge spirometer and the ordinary recording spirometer, we have electronic spirometer, and this measures the airflow with the help of some electronic circuitry and calculates the lung volumes and capacity. Also, it provides graphical output which is similar to that of a standard spirometer which we have seen before, and we can also get the digital readout here. And we have another one which is called a bronchospirometer, which consists of two spirometer, that is a dual spirometer, which is used to measure the lung volumes and capacities of each lungs individually. And the next one is we have some spirometer which incorporates microprocessors, and with the help of this we can print some information, and also we can compare the recorded results with the standard reference results. So these kind of microprocessors can be used in conjunction with wedge spirometer. So far we have seen some types of spirometer, but with the help of this spirometer we cannot measure some parameters like residual volume, FRC and total lung capacity. So we have to go for some other techniques. So these things can be measured with the help of some foreign gas mixtures. So let's see how these parameters can be measured. First we'll see how this residual volume can be measured. This residual volume can be measured with the help of two techniques. One is a closed circuit technique and the next one is a open circuit or the nitrogen washout technique. In the closed circuit technique, you will be having a spirometer which is having a known concentration of a marker gas. Usually the marker gas which is used here is helium. Okay, so the spirometer will contain a known concentration of a marker gas, that is a helium, and the patient will breathe it. Okay, so what will happen after several minutes of breathing? The complete mixing of a spirometer gas, that is nothing but your marker gas which is helium, and the pulmonary gases. So pulmonary gas is nothing but the gas in the lungs. So these two gases, that is the spirometer gas and the pulmonary gas, will get mixed up, and the residual volume is calculated by proportions of gas volumes and the concentration. And the next technique is open circuit or nitrogen washout technique, which involves inspiration of pure oxygen and expiration into an oxygen purged spirometer. That is, you will be containing a spirometer which contains oxygen, and hence the patient has to exhale gas into that spirometer. So usually the human lungs contain some percentage of nitrogen. So as the patient breathes pure oxygen, what will happen? This oxygen will mix up with nitrogen in the lungs, and certain amount of nitrogen eventually will get washed out for each breath. And with the help of the washout curve of nitrogen, the volume of air initially in the lungs can be obtained. And the next parameter is functional residual capacity, that is FRC. So this FRC is usually measured by equipment which is called body plethysmograph. So this body plethysmograph is nothing but an airtight box in which the patient is seated. So this body plethysmograph is moreover will look like a telephone booth, and it is completely sealed. Okay, and the patient will be seated inside this airtight box. So with this help of this equipment, we can calculate this functional residual capacity. And this body plethysmograph, it utilizes Boyle's law. So what does Boyle's law states? That is, at a constant temperature, the volume of a gas varies inversely with the pressure. Here, the patient breathes air through a tube containing a airflow transducer. So here also the patient will be inhaling the gas through a tube, but the thing is you will be having some transducer here so that we can monitor the airflow. The tube through which the patient breathing here is usually closed off with the help of a shutter. That is, the patient has to make some extra effort or a pressure to inhale the gas. and hence here the ratio of change in a lung volume to change in the mouth pressure is used to determine the gas volume. The next one is intra-alveolar and intrathoracic pressure measurements. For intra-alveolar pressure measurement, body plethysmograph technique can be used, but the difference between here and the FRC technique is, for measuring FRC, the tube through which the patient is breathing is usually closed with the help of some shutter. Whereas here in intra-alveolar pressure measurement, the tube will not be closed with shutter so that the patient can inhale the gas freely. So that is the only difference here. And the next one is intrathoracic pressure measurement. Here the balloon will be placed in the esophagus. Therefore, the pressure on the balloon is measured with respect to mouth pressure by some pressure transducer, and this gives the intrathoracic pressure. The next one is airway resistance measurement. What is airway resistance? So it is nothing but a resistance offered to airflow through a respiratory tract during inspiration and expiration. And this resistance can be calculated with the help of this formula, that is R is equal to PIA minus PA divided by F, where R is nothing but the airway resistance, PIA is intra-alveolar pressure, PA is atmospheric pressure, and F is the airflow. The last one is measurement of closing volume. This closing volume is nothing but a volume of lung at the end of forced expiration, and after this some airways in the lungs gets closed, and hence the expired gas will come from the relatively poor ventilated regions of the lungs. For the measurement of closing volume, we have two techniques. First, we'll see about the first technique, which is called a bolus method. So in this bolus method, a bolus of marker gas is inspired. That is, the patient will not inspire the gas continuously. He will inspire the gas and will take some break, and again they will be inspiring the gas. So this is what called a bolus method. So the patient will not inspire the gas continuously. So the marker gas which is being used here can be argon, neon, or helium. So here the patient will be allowed to inspire the gas to maximum inspiration level, and then the patient will slowly expire the gas as much as possible. So here the person with average lung volume should completely expire all the gases in 8 to 10 seconds. Next we will see about the second method. So we have already seen the lungs will contain some percentage of nitrogen. So this nitrogen will be used as a marker gas here. So what will happen here is the patient will be allowed to inhale oxygen and exhale all the gas as much as possible. Then we have to plot a graph between the concentration of the nitrogen and the lung volume level. From the graph, we can see at some point the nitrogen concentration suddenly increases at more rapid rate. Hence, the closing volume is actually the difference between the level, that is, the level at which the nitrogen concentration suddenly increases, so that point, and the residual volume level. So this difference gives the closing volume. This is all about respiratory rate measurement. Thank you.